A very good morning to everybody, and we are back with one more live session with Neetu's Academy. Today being a Thursday, we are going forward with a Writing Precision Live. IELTS Writing Precision Live, as we normally do on every Thursday. We deal with the writing module, the tasks which are a part of the writing module. So before going into detail about what we are going to discuss today, I hope that your practice sessions are going well, and that if anybody is preparing for a test in the near future, you are well prepared enough with all the 4 modules, right? All the 4 modules should be given importance, especially everybody knows that the complicated module that is writing and speaking, we already put a lot of effort in that. However, reading also is one of the very important modules, and at last but not the least, listening also should be given importance, right? Okay, so we are going to discuss today about the writing task 1. We started last week with the writing task 1, which is different for general and academic candidates. We had given an overview about the same thing. അപ്പം അതിനെപ്പറ്റി ചെറിയൊരു ബ്രീഫ് ഇൻട്രൊഡക്ഷനിലാണ് നമ്മൾ ലാസ്റ്റ് വീക്ക് ചെയ്തിരുന്നു. ജനറലുകാർക്ക് എങ്ങനെ, അക്കാഡമിക്കുകാർക്ക് എങ്ങനെ എന്നുള്ള രണ്ടുപേർക്കും ടാസ്ക് വ്യത്യാസമുള്ളതും കൊണ്ട് മാത്രം. ടാസ്ക് 2 സെയിം ആണ്. ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ദ സെയിം ഫോർ ബോത്ത് ജനറൽ ആൻഡ് അക്കാഡമിക്, ബട്ട് വെൻ ഇറ്റ് കംസ് ടു ടാസ്ക് 1 it is different. So after that overview episode, now we are going to do is one by one we will take each task, right? Each kind of question in task. So we are starting with IELTS academic task 1. We'll take the academic task 1, which is a little vast as compared to general. That doesn't make general less important, but we'll start with academic. Now on the screen you can see some details about the task 1 type of questions, right? So the task 1 for academic is known as report writing. Okay, it is called as report writing, which can be also called as summary writing. Either it's report writing or it's a summary writing. Both are the same, right? Now the time taken, what is the time given to you for this is 20 minutes, right? You can take 20 minutes to write this task, right? And the word count is 150 words, right? You have to complete this essay, this report, in 150. Minimum is 150 words. That means it's mandatory that you have to write at least 150. It can be 149 also. Then beyond, if you're going 150 ക്കാൾ നിങ്ങൾ കൂടുതലാണ് എഴുതാൻ ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നതെങ്കിൽ അത് എഴുതി പോയെങ്കിൽ we'll always say it is suggested that try to keep it between 150 to 180. That is enough, because the main reason being you have only 20 minutes to write this task, and after this you have got a task 2, right? Now task 1 has got, it's actually the weightage of task 1 when it comes to the marks, its band is 1/3. That means when the band for writing is calculated, task 1 band which you get is calculated only once, task 2 is twice. That doesn't make it less important. You should make sure that you get a right band in this, right? Now okay, now how these band descriptors are calculated, on what basis? What are the the rubrics, right? So like task 2 also has got some band descriptors, task 1 also has got 4 band descriptors. On the basis of that, your writing task 1 band is calculated. 4 of them, in that 3 of them are common, as in task 2. The first one is task achievement, right, which is also quite similar to task response. Then comes coherence and cohesion, then come lexical resources, which is vocabulary, and then comes your grammar, range and accuracy. Task achievement, mainly what is the content of task achievement? Let's see. In task achievement, you are required to write an accurate report, right? Now a report means, report writing is wherein it's a visual description kind of question, wherein you have been given a diagram. നിങ്ങൾക്കൊരു ഡയഗ്രാം ഉണ്ടാവും. You have to write that diagram or summarize that diagram into 150 words minimum. That's why it's called a summary writing, right? So that requires students to accurately reflect the relevant information. The diagram may have a lot of information. Your job is to take the most important ones, the most relevant ones, and transfer it into a report. Okay. Second thing in task achievement is maintaining a format, right? every kind of writing, be task 1 or task 2, we always suggest a format. Follow that format. It becomes easy for you also, and it becomes easy for the moderator also to evaluate the same. Right? So please follow the format. That also is a part of task achievement. Right? Now, how do you know that you have written a correct and accurate report? If you give that summary to someone, if that person is able to draw a diagram out of that summary, that means you have done your job properly, right? So if you give your answer to a stranger, if they are able to accurately reproduce that same diagram or the graph, whichever graph it is, that means you have done your task properly. So that is task achievement. Mainly, it is you write it completely, you complete your task, you write it accurately, that means correctly, and you maintain a format for the same. These things you have to take care of when it comes to TA. That is first rubric. 25% for that. 25%. All have got equal weightage, 25% each. Right? Then comes coherence and cohesion, which we have. This term you must have heard a lot of times if you are familiar with writing, because it is a part of task 2 also. Coherence is wherein they are checking how you are able to present your data in a systematic manner. The clear, the fluent, and easy to understand. Right? That means when you write the data paragraph wise, the reader is able to have the information easily understood because of the flow of the systematic flow of the information. Right? So structure, appropriate vocabulary, good grammar help to achieve this coherence and cohesion. Right? Good paragraphing and appropriate use of cohesive devices, that is linking words. Right? Not too much, but to an extent you should use when you join your sentences. Right? That helps to get a good band. That is coherence and cohesion. Lexical resources, like I mentioned earlier, simply known as vocabulary. The words which you use doesn't mean you have to use very hi-fi or something which is out of the world words. You have to use the most appropriate, accurate words with correct spellings. Right? The section is all about vocabulary. It is not often the most misunderstood one. It is not about inserting as many long words as possible. It is not. Right? It is about choosing the most appropriate, the relevant, and the accurate. Whatever sentence you are writing, that word should be accurate to the context words, and also without any spelling mistakes. Right? So that is what lexical resources are. Then comes grammar range. As the name suggests, grammar range and accuracy is maintaining your grammar. Right? Type of sentences mainly. What type of sentences you are using, your punctuations, your tenses, your articles, everything. So you have to produce a report which is grammatically accurate, with grammatically accurate sentences, has proper punctuation, no contractions, right? Because it's a very formal kind of writing. It is a very, very objective way of writing. Report is a very objective way of writing, right? So it is quite formal, right? It's a very formal report, right? So that's why you have to maintain all these things. Now, if at least 50% of your sentences, how much ever sentences you are writing, if you are writing 20 sentences, after that, if at least 10 sentences are not grammatically correct, it would be difficult for you to score over a band of 7. If your expectation is going above 7 in your writing, then make sure that 50% of your sentences are grammatically accurate. Okay, so these are the 4 rubrics on which your band is calculated. Equal weightage for each, 25% each. Whatever band you get for each criteria, added, divided by 4 gives your writing task 1 band. Okay, this is your band descriptors. Okay, so this is the basic things about writing task 1 for academic, which is report. Now, what are these reports? Like I told you, they are actually questions which come in visual form. The question is actually divided into 3 parts. The first is wherein they give you the description. Description about the diagram which is given. Then after that comes the instructions for you, what you have to do, what is expected from you, and then comes the graph. So these are the 3 parts of the questions. First, the first sentence describes what the diagram is telling you or showing you. Second is instruction, what you have to do, right? Third is the graph, the diagram. Okay, this is a 3-part question. The type of charts. The diagrams which come to you are mainly of how many types? The first very common one, bar graph or a bar chart. Second is a line graph or a line chart. Third is a table, pie chart or pie graph. A diagram or a process chart. A map or a combination chart. Combination can be 2 of them, especially now when it comes to map and diagram, sometimes 2 diagrams can be given, it's a combination. 2 maps are given, it's a combination. Otherwise, the other 4, that is bar, line, table and pie, these can be also combined. Any 2 can be given into one question and asked to write a report. That is called as a combination chart. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, mainly 7 type of diagrams which are a part of report writing, which you should be aware of. Any one can come and all the 7 are common. Nothing can be ignored by telling that this is not common, this cannot come. No, all the 7 are to be taken into consideration. These are type of charts. Now, what do they look like? Now, bar chart is bar graph for the same. I didn't take a diagram because it is something which is very common. We have all run in schools also, right? Bar diagram is a part of mathematics wherein you are given a y-axis and you are given a x-axis, and then you can see some bars. It can be single bars, it can be multiple bars. It depends. So this is the same thing. It can be a vertical bar, it can be a horizontal bar. It can be either of them. Okay? It is mainly comparison of information, wherein you have got a y-axis and you have got an x-axis, right? So this is mainly time period, most of the time. This is time period and this is maybe measuring unit, right? This can be a measuring unit, percentage, number or whatever. So that's a bar graph. Okay, quite common. Next is a line graph, which looks something like this. If you are a person who goes through a lot of newspapers and all, when you see the Sensex page, you can see this. Business page, you can see this is very common diagram, wherein they show about the inflation or maybe consumer goods or various things, various information which has been given into, like this is about consumption of spreads, right? So they have given 3 items, margarine, low fat and reduced spreads, butter, 3 spreads. Now how are people consuming this, right? Now this y-axis is showing you it in grams, the quantity, measuring unit like I told you, and here is the time period. X-axis is showing the years from 1981 to 2007 is a period for the comparison of the consumption, right? You can see in 1981 the green line, the green line is butter, the red line is low fat and reduced spreads, and blue is margarine. So you can see, if you see the butter line, you can see it's 1981, it is showing around about 140, somewhere nearly 140 grams consumption, and so it is showing an increase. By 1986 it is increasing, and then from 1986 to a period of 2007 itself is showing a decline, right? So 1986 is actually the most consumed spread. However, after that period, by the final year 2007, it's eventually, it's declining. The consumption is declining. So that is how the comparison has been done. And that is what is your job is to write these things. This is line graph. Okay. This is only an overview which I am giving you. Now each sessions we are going to take it in detail. Next is a table, something which looks like this, as the name suggests, it is a table, like normally which we make a table on a spreadsheet, same like that. They have some rows and some columns. Rows are food, electronic equipment, music, videos, and then they have given some columns of adults, men, women, children, boys, girls, and so on. Measuring unit is in percentage. So what is it? The proportion of income adults and children spent on 4 common items in UK in the year 1998. So this is only for, it's a single year table. Tables can be for single years and multiple years. This is a single year table only for the year 1998, right? And what is it? The proportion of income, what the adults and children spent on 4 common items. in the United Kingdom in 98. And then they have given some percentages like adults, when it comes to food, they are spending 25% on their income on food, 5% on electronic equipments, music 5%, videos 1. So when it comes to adults, their maximum income goes to 25% into food. The least is for videos, right? And so on. So you have to make comparisons between these information. Now see, there's a lot of information available. You cannot write all these numbers into your report, right? Your job is to take the most relevant ones and make comparisons and write it in your report. That is what a good report is about. Now next comes pie chart. This is what a pie chart looks like. We already know pie chart is, when we have done in schools, and pie chart is a circle, 2 circles, and then they have made some divisions about some comparisons and so on. So this is average household expenditure by major category: housing, food, healthcare, education, transportation, other, which is all different colors. How much percentage household, how much expenditure is gone in a household for these categories. That is comparison for 1950 and 2010, 2 years. That is what the pie chart is telling you. This is pie. Next is, now this is process chart. Now process chart is normally, it can be a process of producing something, that is manufacturing, some life cycle, okay, for some organism, that can be also a process, right? Now this is actually what the diagram shows, process of making coffee. So here coffee is produced. How coffee is produced, that is what it's shown. It starts from pick the coffee beans and it ends in coffee powder into jars. In between some steps are there. After picking beans, what they are doing, they are drying them and they are roasting the beans, then they are cooling them, then they are grinding them. They are grinded, and after that they are mixed with hot water, then they are strained, and then they are freezed, again ground, dried and packed into jars for sale. So this is, so you can see how many processes are there, 3, 6, 9, 10 steps. So there are 10 steps included in this particular process. A process chart is one type of chart where you cannot ignore any step. You have to mention all the steps. Like we have told in this table or this pie, maybe some information can be very less relevant, which you can be ignored and which cannot be a part of your chart. However, process chart is a chart where all the steps have to be included into your report. That you have to remember. Okay? This is what a process chart looks like. Next is a map. This is what is called as a map. Map generally, as the name suggests, it is a map. This is a map below which shows an island. Before and after. Some years before this, something which was like this, and some years after, something which is like this. Right? For example, if you take the map of Cochin today and maybe 25 years back how it was, lot of differences will be there. Lot of additions will be there. Lot of things must have been demolished. Right? Lot of developments would have been there. So that difference which has happened in the past 25 years or 10 years or 15 years, that is what will be a part of your report. That means you have to compare the informations, make addition, mention something which has been added, something which has been demolished and is not more available, that you have to mention. Right? So here you can see that the map below show an island before and after the construction of some tourist facilities. And then they are telling 2 maps below show an island before and after the construction of some tourist facilities. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. This is your instruction part. Like I told, this is the first part describing the diagram. This is the second part which is your instruction, and this is the third part which is your diagram. 3 parts of the question, right? Write at least 150 words. And then you can see before how it was. It was like quite vacant, that place. You can see the sea is there and some palm trees are there. It's covered by sea from all the sides, and there's a small beach over here, right? And then after that, when you see the map, after a few years, it can see there's mentioned a footpath and a vehicle track is mentioned here. You can see a restaurant has been added. There are a lot of small huts kind of things, right? Because it's a tourist destination, and there's they have been joined with some circle, maybe it's a water pool, and then there is palm trees and restaurants. It's not that clear. Accommodations are there, which is mentioned, accommodations, all these things. And then you can see there is a kind of bridge which has been built towards the sea, right? And then you can see ships over there, or boats which are there. So there are a lot of additions which have been made in the map in the passage of time. So that is what you have to mention in your report. That's a summary of those two comparisons. So these are the type of, now combination can be like, for example, maybe combination can be these two. They will take this table and this pie, not the same information, connected informations, and this is how combination may look like, one table and one pie. Or maybe combination can look like this also, one line and one table, okay, or maybe one line and one pie. Combination can look anyhow. That is a combination graph. Now this itself is a combination graph because it has got two maps. Okay, sometimes process diagrams can be one diagram showing something and one diagram showing something. That can be a process chart. This is what the type of diagrams are. Okay, now going forward, the structure, which is very important. Like I told, every essay or every writing task has a structure which is always suggested to all of you. Now you can follow your own structure, but then we always suggest that if you have a structure in with you and you practice in that way, it becomes easy for you during the actual test. You don't have to break your head to think how much paragraphs I will write or what I have to write, right? So we always suggest for this also, for report also, keep a basic 4-para structure. Okay, maintain a 4-paragraph structure, which is, I think, that's enough, right? That is what is suggested. Now this 4-paragraph structure, what all comes in that? Your first paragraph is your introduction, right? Introduction is generally what? Paraphrase. Your question statement. And also, if you want to add some references from the diagram or the graph, whichever graph it is, some information which you can take from the graph or the diagram that you can add in the, like for this question, if you can see, this is the statement. This is what you have to paraphrase. The two maps below show an island. What they show, an island before and after the construction of some tourist facilities. That you will paraphrase. And if you want to take some information from the diagram, that also can be added and put into your introduction paragraph. That is what your introduction paragraph is all about, right? Next is your overview paragraph, a very important part of report. This is very, very important paragraph. All are important, but this is very important because this is kind of a summary. When you look at a diagram, or diagram മുമ്പിൽ കാണുമ്പം അത് കാണുമ്പോൾ തന്നെ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് സ്ട്രൈക്ക് ആവുന്ന ചില കാര്യങ്ങളുണ്ട്, റൈറ്റ്? കുറേ കാര്യങ്ങളുണ്ടാവും, പക്ഷെ പെട്ടെന്ന് നോക്കുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് സ്ട്രൈക്ക് ആവുന്ന 1-2 കാര്യങ്ങളുണ്ടാവും. അതാണ് ഡയഗ്രാമിൻ്റെ ഹോൾ സമ്മറി, റൈറ്റ്? ആ കാര്യങ്ങൾ, വാട്ട് എവർ ഈസ് ദ മോസ്റ്റ് സ്ട്രൈക്കിംഗ് ഫീച്ചർ, features 2 or maximum 3, that is what comes into your overview paragraph without any numbers, any specific number details, right? That is not to be mentioned. That is what your overview paragraph is all about. Okay, then comes your, so that is very important. You have to look for 1 or 2 striking features, maximum 3, and put it into your overview paragraph. Okay, then comes your para 3, which is your body paragraph 1. Okay, details of your feature, whatever feature you have mentioned in your overview paragraph 1 or 2, that has to be now explained with numbers and specific. If you're making a claim, support your claim always. If you're claiming something, claim should be supported with evidence. So if you're telling there has been an increase in the consumption of coffee or whatever it is, here it is told consumption of butter or spreads, right? So if you are telling there has been an increase from 1991, it was 140. By the year 1996, there has been an increase in the consumption of butter spread. Then how much? You have to mention that. That number has to be mentioned. That is very important. That has to come in your body paragraph 1. Along with that, along with that feature 1, most important feature, if you feel like something can be written down as a relevant feature, write that also, less relevant one. Then comes para 4, which is a BP2. body paragraph 2. Here, the second feature which you have written in your overview, that has to be written with specific details. Plus, if any observations which you feel like it's relevant, you can write it down in your paragraph. Okay, that is what your structure looks like. This is what your structure is. There may also be 3 significant features. Like I told, 2 overview 2 മാത്രമേ എഴുതാവൂ നിർബന്ധമല്ല. ചിലപ്പോൾ 2 ഉണ്ടാവുള്ളൂ. ചിലപ്പം ഡയഗ്രാം കുറച്ചും കൂടി എലാബറേറ്റ് ആണെങ്കിൽ ചിലപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് 3 ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻറ്റ് ഫീച്ചേഴ്സ് കിട്ടും. അപ്പോൾ മൂന്നാമത്തെയും കൂടെ അതിനകത്ത് ആഡ് ചെയ്യാവുന്നതാണ്. അങ്ങനെ ഹാർഡ് ആൻഡ് ഫാസ്റ്റ് ഉള്ളൊന്നുമില്ല. So you can adjust the structure accordingly. The one important thing you have to take care is that reports doesn't have a conclusion. Reports doesn't have a conclusion because conclusions are for opinion and discursive essays. Now, when you give your opinion about something, you write a conclusion, right? But here, you already given the information, you have given a summary in your overview, you have given the details in your para 1 and para 2. Now, nothing is there as a conclusion to write. Nothing, no opinion, no repetition of information, restating something, it is not. Therefore, there is no conclusions. There are no conclusions in a report. Write an essay has. That is something to be taken care of. This is a structure. Basic structure for every report, whatever the diagram. Now, we all get confused when it comes to identifying the main features. When you write your overview, which is a very important point, okay, paragraph, what to write in an overview? How do you, with lot of information available in your diagram or graph, what is the most relevant one which can come into your overview paragraph? Okay, so there are some things some questions which you can ask yourself, right, when you write that report. Looking should include high and low values, low numbers and high numbers, the highest number, the lowest number. Like when you compare this table over here, which I have given you here. Now see, I told adults, they give 25% of the income for food. Now out of this list, you can see after 25, the highest is actually women. Okay, women actually spend 39% on their income on food. That is something which is lowest. If you can see, it is 9% by the boys. Similarly, for all the things, this is 1% electronic equipment for women, the lowest number, right? So that is, you have to look for such numbers, the high and the low values. Then erratic values, that means something which is out of the maybe something which can be written down as specifically, right? Biggest increase and decrease, the growth or the decline, which is the highest growth or the highest decline, that one. Then unchanging data, volatile data, unchanging data, something which is stable. Biggest majority or minority, that is like for pie charts mainly. Biggest differences, similarities same. Major trends or patterns. Notable exception, something which is notable and it's an exception. Major trends or patterns. Looking for these things should allow you to pick out the most important features. If you take care of these things, if you look for these things in your graph, then you will be able to present your overview with the most important feature. That is how you get the most important feature. Now, how do you approach a report writing? When a question is given in front of you, how do you go forward? Step by step. First main thing, read the question very carefully. Okay, at least twice. Right? Study the diagram. Take a few seconds and study the diagram. Study the graph. Like you should know all the labels, titles, everything. Right? So you have got 20 minutes. Right? Out of that 20 minutes, allocate 3 to 4 minutes to plan your report. Okay? In that include the study. Read the question. Study the diagram. Analyze it. Plan what you're going to write in your para 1. Para 2 in your overview, and then go with the actual writing. Okay, look at the data which is given. Which data is presented on which axis? Y-axis, x-axis, which is for line, bar graph, and so on. What are the groups which are presented? What are the labels? What are time periods? Measuring units. What are the measuring units? Everything you should know, because that will all be referred in your report. Main features, which we saw, how to get the main features. You have to look for these questions, these things, and get the main features. So once you read the question very clearly, then you analyze the diagram, okay, and check all the labels, title, the x-axis, the y-axis, the measuring unit, time period, everything, all the references will come in your report. Then you look out for the main features, right? Then you look for comparisons. Comparison is a very important part of report writing. You have to always write sentences when you make comparisons. This is lower than that by this much percentage. This is higher than that. This particular thing was this much percentage this year, which dropped down. Okay, or there was a rise in something. There's a stability between the X and the Y data for the particular year. That comparison language has to be there. Quick plan using the above structure. After that, write an introduction, paraphrase the question, then write a second paragraph, which is a summary or the overview with the main features. Support those ideas which you have given in overview, with more details, that is specific numbers, which is very important. If you are making a claim, like I told, please support them with the data, which is important, the third and the fourth paragraph. After that, when you proofread your report, make sure that you have not repeated any words, okay, and used a range of vocabulary, even though it's a simple vocabulary. Check for grammar mistakes towards the end, and make sure that you have written 150 words. This is very essential. Never ignore the word count. 150 words is very essential, right? That is something you have to do. Okay. So this is what the steps you have to follow when you're writing a report. Follow these steps. It won't be that difficult for you when you write a report. Okay. These are type of diagrams for which you have to write a report on, and then the rubrics. I gave an overview of that. Please do have a look at it, and then after that the word count and minutes. Okay. So this is what it was about. I will show you small sample answer. I have not taken a diagram specifically because I'll be starting with this. When I go for the next live sessions, I'll be starting with each report on a single session, right? But here I have taken one sample answer to show you how the comparison language has been used. Okay, sentences. This is just a sample answer. Diagram is not there. Okay, we don't know what kind of diagram it is. Now, the diagram shows, now this is the introduction paragraph. Introduction paragraph is very short, even though it's a one sentence or two sentence only, keep it separate always. Okay, so the diagram shows whatever the diagram is. It can be a bar chart, line chart, table, whatever it is, shows the levels of charitable donations of people living in Britain, separated by age between the 1990 and 2010. So there are three things which are mentioned. They are actually level of charitable donations. The amount of charitable donations these people are making where in Britain, they have been distinguished with age, right? Between the time period of 1990 and 2010. This much is a part of your diagram. This much information is in your diagram. Overview. Overall, we start with overall, comma. This makes it easier for the moderator to understand that this is the overview. Okay, the most common way to start an overview. There was a general decrease in the percentage of people who donated money over the two time periods. So now they're telling about a decrease which has happened in the percent. So the time measuring unit is percentage, right? It has happened over the two time periods. So whatever the time periods are, maybe 5 years or 10 years, whatever it is, on two time periods, a decrease has happened. Second overview, which has been started with a linking word. However, the pattern differs because it's going contradictory. First was decrease. So, however, the pattern differs between the three age groups before 50, that means below 50, and the two age groups after the age of 50. So, they have bifurcated, less than 50 years and more than 50 years. So, that the pattern differs. So, even though there has been a general decrease in the percentage of people who donated, there's some change when it comes to age groups before 50, less than 50 and more than 50. Okay. That is the two main features in the overview. Coming to the first paragraph, which says, because we are speaking about decrease first in your main feature, so that will be explained in your first para. The highest decrease was in the 18-25 age category. From 18 to 25 years, there was a decrease, which decreased 10%. It decreased to 10% from 17 in 1990, okay, to 7% in 2010. So it decreased to 10% from 17 in 1990 to 7% in 2010. 10. Then after that, 42% of people in the 35, this is 36 to 50, this is 18 to 25, 36 to 50 age group, give the charity in 1990. The highest in the chart, they were actually the highest in the chart. This is the highest number. Okay, this you have shown as the highest decrease. This is the highest on the chart, and this fell to 35%. So even they were highest in the 1990, they fell to 35% in 20. So this is showing again a drop, a decline. There was also a significant decline in donations among 26 to 35-year-olds from 31 to 24%. So all these age groups, there's a decrease, which already we mentioned in your overview. There's a general decrease. That means the donations have declined. There's a decline in the donations, which is shown, but different age groups, the percentage is different. That is what is mentioned in your first paragraph with 1825, 3650, 26 to 35-year-old. Now, let's come to the paragraph where you can see the exception to this general trend downwards was among the exception to this general trend was a decrease. There's an exception to this general trend downwards was among the 51 to 61-year-old and over 65s. In 2010, the 51 to 65-year-olds gave the highest percentage with nearly 40%, and this rose from 35% to in 1990, right? Finally, those over 65 displayed a slight percentage increase of 3%. So the first paragraph is telling about the general decrease in most of the age groups, 18 to 25, 36 to 50 and 25 to 35-year-olds. However, there is an exception for among after 50 years old, especially 65 and over 65, they are showing a increase. That is from 40%, they rose from 35%, from 35% 1990, they rose to 40%. Right, and 65-year-olds show a slight increase of 3%. Even though the increase is very mild, right, it is actually written down in a separate percentage because it is both are different informations, right? So it's a comparison they have done between the increase and the decrease and also the age groups. So that is how the information has been placed. So this was just a sample answer wherein you could compare the sentences, the informations, because the donations, there's a showing a decrease and increase, but there's a separation by age, okay, in these time periods. So this is how the comparison has to be made. Comparison language has to be used. It's a separate set of vocabularies for section task 1 when it comes to academic. Okay, please follow that vocabularies which is available in your when we start with the sessions. I'll be helping you with that, but at the same time you have got your Cambridge books wherein they have mentioned all these details. What vocabulary you should use, that is very essential, right? So this is how a report looks like. This is just a rough report. I have not shown the diagram, and it's a sample answer to show how it looks like. The specifics which have been, the numbers which have been mentioned, see in the overview there's nothing. They have just given an overview. That same information they have detailed into the paragraphs, specific numbers, years and all those kind of. That is how it is to be written, right? Okay, so this is how a report looks like with whatever kind of diagram. So from the next sessions, we'll be starting with each diagrams on each session, so that we'll come to know how there's a differentiation when you write the report for each diagram. Even though the pattern, the format is the same, the language is almost the same. Sometimes the language differs, but then we are going to do in detail. Okay, so this is where we end today, and we'll be joining with the next session with detailed report starting with the bar graph. Okay, till then you keep all practicing, be safe and have a good day. Goodbye.